All right, y'all, welcome back to another episode of Thunder Road Running. This evening, we've got a good friend of mine serving as our guest and our podcast guest, and Josh Seitz. He is the coach at Portland State University. Josh and I go back, Josh? It's been 5 years now, something like that? Since our Florida State days. It's crazy. Almost half a decade.
Yep.
But Joshua grew up in Oregon boy, ran in high school. I believe he was a 420 low guy in high school coming out. 420. Yeah, somewhere in there. Went to Southern Oregon for college, ran there, competed, was a steeplechase specialist before getting on a graduate transfer role at Morehead State and competing there for a year. Morehead State's in Kentucky. Ended up running 9:13 in the steeple before it was all said and done, which would have probably snuck you into regions that year, I'm assuming. Or just out?
I was sniffing it. I was on that side.
Oh, man. I thought you would have been in for sure with 9:13. After that, he took on an assistant coach role at Morehead State, working specifically with the steeplechasers. He's always had a knack for the steeple, both as an athlete and a coach. Got an early start there before he landed the volunteer role at Florida State, where we met. During his time at Florida State, he had a rock star crew of people that he worked with. They had a triple crown that year in the ACC. You had Quigley's NCAA title in the steeplechase. He was working with Lyndon Hall, who's now the Australian 1,500 meter record holder as of 2 weeks ago or something like that. You had Georgia Peel, who was an All-American, British athlete. You had Pippa and Bridget, all running, at a national caliber level. It truly was a thing of beauty watching you work with those women. I really want to hear about Kenya. And Coach here took a Fullbright scholarship trip out to Kenya. Tell us what that's about. What is a Fullbright scholarship? How does it work?
Yeah. So I guess going back just before that, we were talking before everyone got on. I broke my back in college, and I got to see all my friends get fast while I was sitting down, and I was still really interested in the sport. And I just hung out with my coach and just saw, I guess, the X's and O's of coaching and how development works. And so in my head, I just wanted to be a coach. And that's everything. I just loved the sport, and I wanted to help people run fast. And then you transition that all the way to Florida State. And like you said, I got to inherit an amazing coaches group and work with some phenomenal athletes. And at the end of 2015, when we had Colleen, who was a national champion, Lyndon was All-American, and a bunch of other East Prelim qualifiers, that was kind of, I thought that was kind of as good as it could get as a distance coach in Division I. And it was awesome. I loved it, but I was also early 20s and thinking, is there anything else in life that I'd want to see and do? And fortunately, I had on a whim applied for this Fullbright grant to go out and teach English. I had a teaching degree from my graduate studies at Morehead State, and then work with some runners out there, primarily less in a coaching role and more in helping them get scholarships to the university, to the U.S. through the NCAA, and primarily women's distance running. So to answer your question, the Fullbright is it's an awesome grant that was started after World War II, when we had all these war funds and we didn't want to keep fighting. So Senator Fullbright decided to pitch this idea of spend all that money on intercultural exchange. So send people in the U.S. to places that we don't know much about, and get to know people and teach about the U.S. and learn about places like Kenya. So I applied with the idea of teaching. That was the main purpose of the Fullbright ETA that I applied on. And then there's a supplemental project, and being in the NCAA, you see it at the champs. There's a lot of Kenyan men running really fast, and there's a little bit less on the women's side. And the reasons behind that, there's a lot, but there's just less opportunities for very fast women to get their high school degrees in Kenya. And so I went over there and taught and tried to pitch hey, send your fast daughters to high school. they could get a scholarship, and they can make a lot more money, and they have a lot of earning power if they just stay through high school and get good grades.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's maybe the most long-winded way to answer it, but that's how I snuck into this Fullbright thing.
Yeah. Well, no, it's brilliant. It's great backstory. So the intention behind it was a good one. That's kind of what I took from all that. And it's amazing the difference, like you said, the opportunity for women in a country like Kenya is very different from the opportunity over here for our women, who are expected to graduate high school per se and go to college. And even nowadays work. I know that sounds ridiculous, but 30, 40 years ago, maybe that wasn't the same expectation as it is now. It's like, no, they're expected and have every opportunity to be successful professionally. And I mean, that's crazy to think they're that far away from that in a country like Kenya. And you kind of got to help push that needle forward. What was it like getting off the plane there? You're not really sure what to expect. You get off the plane and it's like, all right, you're here. Get to work. I mean, what was that like?
Yeah.
Those first days.
Fulbright helps you a little bit with that transition. I mean, you have a pre-departure orientation in DC where they talk about going to, like, I was in a group with Sub-Saharan Africa, but I mean, Sub-Saharan Africa, there's a lot of different, it's like the US, right? You're in Oregon versus Kentucky. It's very different, right?
Yeah.
So you get baseline knowledge of what to expect, but then you get there and you land, and fortunately the embassy sort of takes care of you and takes you to a few schools and to a few teachings. But getting off the plane, it's different. I don't really know how quite to describe it, because I went in with this idea of I was going to go to E10 and be around the fastest runners in the world. And there's just obviously so much more to Kenya. And I was transported. Transportation takes a lot longer. I was just transitioning to a slower lifestyle. Like, actually, I'd liken it to when I started coaching at Morehead State in Kentucky. It's a little different than the West Coast here. Like, the first thing when you go into the office to talk to the principal or to talk to your AD, you're not getting to business first. You're talking about how they're doing and how their family's doing, and you're getting to know the person first and establishing a good relationship. And every Friday, they do this big assembly with the school, and every teacher goes up and talks about something, but they're always talking about what they're thankful for, right? And I don't know, there's a lot of more interrelationship type stuff that I picked up on in Kenya first, before even getting to the running stuff. And it's just slow moving. Things get done a little bit slower, and you got to appreciate what's in front of you.
So tell me about the running culture up there that you got to experience on those weekends, on your outings up into the Rift Valley.
Yeah. I think I was talking to you a little bit about this, but you drive into E10, the home of champions, right? I'm sure a lot of people have seen that sign, and it's 6 a.m, 7 a.m. You see hundreds of people just out running. And then you go to the track in Cameroon Stadium, and it's a dirt track where world champions are training and people that can't finish a lap are training. Right? And I think that the culture of running is just like, so in this one little select area, right? It's just ingrained in you, and everybody tries it out. And they just have such high participation rates, but it's not necessarily what I think a lot of us Westerners think, where everyone's just fast. I mean, there are a lot of bad runners too. It's just everyone's trying it. And then, I remember watching both Renato Canova and Brother Colm O'Connell coaching at the same time at that track. And, Renato is high energy, and he's yelling, and he's running all around, but he's also coaching anyone that'll come out. Like, there's his group, and then there's a bunch of people just trying to hang on that you probably didn't even know their names.
Yeah.
And then Brother Colm's group, it's the high school, St. Patrick's High School, and they're rolling, but I mean, I remember looking over a couple times, and Brother Colm, this legendary coach, is over playing with these little children and not even paying attention to the workout. And so I guess the culture is that everyone's doing it and everyone's taking like the work seriously, I'd say, but they're not stressing out about every little detail, about every little split or anything, right? It's just going, getting in the work. It's part of a lifestyle, and then they get back at it tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's about
I
those
like that touch. He's
don't
playing with
matter.
the kids at the track, having a good time, making sure
Yeah.
there's at least some fun and sounds like a good atmosphere.
Yeah.
I don't know, one where it's like, you can't really call it elitist because like you said, there were people there that couldn't run a lap that were trying to hang on.
Right.
And then you have world champions, on the inside of lane one,
Mhm.
doing things that we could probably only dream of.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That's what Ian Kiprono, he's the assistant at St. Patrick's. And he said that he was looking at, I was asking him about these workout groups. He was saying that like Renato said, or his idea is you never know who the next Olympic champion is going to be. So if people want to come out and run, let them run. And I think, yeah, as again, we've talked about before, like it's so easy, especially over here in high school and college, and you got the times on athletic.net or flow track or whatever. It's so easy to just place your value in a time and start becoming elitist. Like you think you're better than someone else because you're faster than them. But I mean, it's just about falling in love with the sport and putting the work in. And you never know how good you're going to get if you just put in a little bit of time.
Truly, man, truly. And the beautiful thing and sometimes the evil thing about distance running is that it just takes time. And, your genetic ceiling, part of your genetics, how fast you reach your ceiling, your athletic ceiling, that also varies from person to person. Your starting point varies, your ending points could be totally separate. I love telling a story. I had a high school teammate. His name was Ori, and he ran cross country with me in 7th grade. It was a mile and a half. He couldn't finish the race without walking in 7th grade. He just had seemingly no ability, right? He had a good build, but couldn't do it. 8th grade, he finishes the 2 mile without walking. Great, right? 9th grade comes around, 10:30 in the 2 mile. 10th grade comes around. I think he runs 10:10. Junior year runs 9:20. And then goes on to run like 13:40 for Arkansas.
Yeah, that ain't bad.
And you go, this is a guy that couldn't run a mile and a half without stopping, and maybe in the wrong type of environment, that talent never would have been found, and like you're saying at Kenya, they have a knack for giving everyone their shot and giving it some time, kind of investing in the process. But what's also very different about that situation over there is the idea, I don't want to say maybe the pure motivation, but a big part of the motivation is, hey, this could be my ticket out of here, which is very separate from what we experience over here in the US, which, maybe a kid might run for the trophy. He might run for the notoriety, the feel good to let themselves know they're okay, to pad their ego, right? Whereas over there, it might be literally running in hopes of getting a scholarship, going to the US, changing their life. And I kind of have to wonder, could you feel anything different in that space over there as far as like was that expectation weighing on them similarly to like maybe what an external motivator would weigh on a US kid?
I don't know. I don't think you can really fully cast a wide brush on everyone. You see the success stories. You see the Eliud Kipchoge's, right? And the people that have made it. But there was a lot of burnout, it looked like, especially in that younger level, with some of the groups that I went to see that were going to these time trials, or they call them practices. They were just time trials for colleges, and scholarships. And yeah, some individuals were devastated, and they would give up. And I saw more people in races. Like I went to I forgot what it was called, like provincial champs cross country race. And it was like half the field dropped out once they they realized they weren't going to win, or they weren't going to be in the top whatever place. So I think at the younger level, some of that stresses are there, and you just never really see all of that. Like we were talking about, outside of Cameron Stadium, there are people that are just camping out and living there and training, and it's a ticket that they're trying to use as their way to advance in life.
Yeah.
And there's not, like, giving up is not really an option. This is their ticket, and they're pursuing it with everything. And yeah, some of those setbacks that seem so devastating for maybe an American kid, like you don't hit the time you want, or you think coach is going to be mad at you because you disappointed them. Like, you don't have much time to really fester on that, because you just have to get back to work and try and make it tomorrow. But you can't just think your world's over because you didn't run the time you want, or because the person you don't like beat you.
No kidding. Do you think there was anything that do you think, like the Kenyan, like, I don't know, just your everyday guy training over there could potentially learn from an American kid and the way that they approach things, kind of to flip it on its head? Because as coaches, we always want to see kids invest their full self into something. It's like, hey, if you're going to do it right.
Yeah.
Like you race to experience the best version of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can really justify that reasoning behind what you're doing, then like you're going to have a lot of freaking fun racing, versus justifying, you and are you good enough and all the other crap, the ego stuff. But like, were there things that you think they could learn from, some of the developmental kids that we get out of the States that go D1?
Yeah, sure. I mean, that was the point of the Fullbright, mutual understanding. And
Yeah.
That's a good question. I would say that, so I ended up starting up a little team at my high school, just because they were all excited, because they're like, oh, you coach in the US, let's do this. It was not a running culture. I was about 3 hours away from where running was a thing. And yeah, it was, the lifestyle was not there. And it was absolutely, I'm quitting unless I'm winning. And so, yeah, instructing some of that, and just getting out and competing, even if you're in last place, and finishing the dang thing. I don't know. I might have to think on that one for a minute about it. I guess more in E10, Capsabet, that area.
Because I was thinking about the relationship between the two, the idea of running for your life on one side, and then maybe running to prove something on the other. And if there was some overlap there, because, we get to see those two cultures collide all the time, or I have several times, working in the NCAA, you bring a Kenyan in and you've got maybe an Aussie and a Jamaican and a French guy, and you get to watch them interact on the track. And it's really a thing of beauty. Like, cause there's this mutual respect, and that you all want the same thing and you're all working together to achieve it. And everybody usually brings their strength, and they kind of find their place. And I don't know, I was just thinking about, if you hadn't experienced that, maybe what could you learn? I got some questions about squigs, if you feel comfortable to answer or not. Okay. All right. I gotta ask. So, and I'm not trying to start any fights here. All right. But I asked Brandon the same question the other day. Yeah. I had a keen on with him, that his 800 meter guy, he's sixth indoors. Yeah. And I asked him, I said, what do you think the areas of opportunity are in the upcoming season? Mm-hmm. Just generally, is there anything that you can comment there? Any areas of opportunity that y'all can maybe mutually feel about?
Yeah. I mean, it's sort of big picture. Now she's going to be announcing a new brand that she's with that's going to give her a lot more control over, not that there were any issues before, but just over her voice and where she wants to go and what she wants to do. And I think she's said already, I'm not speaking for her, but she was very blessed to join a group that was in a high level and controls a lot of things, like good college programs. And she's to a point in her career where she's, I think, learned a lot of those lessons, and now can go to meets she wants to go to within following the parameters of what works for her. And she can speak about the things she wants to speak about without worrying about what a company might might think
Sure.
that she's passionate about. And I think it's pretty evident on her social media. She's very passionate about girls in sports and equal rights and things like that. And now she can just kind of be herself. Right. And you saw at Florida State, I mean, she was involved in a million different things. It was me always asking her to maybe go to sleep earlier and not go to that club event or something. Right.
Yeah. Do you have to be the president of every club?
Yeah. But yeah.
So maybe a little more freedom.
Yeah.
To do her thing and to be herself.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
And I think there's a lot of benefit to, like, there's no doubt that being around a lot of high level athletes brings you to a different level. Right. Mm-hmm. But I think one area for opportunity for her is maybe not always playing the comparison game with the American record holder right next to you. Right. Or, the American record holder in just about every event. Right.
Yeah.
And she can just focus on, if she is a little dinged up or something, she can call it if she needs to call it, right? And without constantly looking over her shoulder or looking up and saying, well, that person did that much more, right? Ran a little bit faster.
That is such a good point. And depending on how the athlete, their personality and everything and how type A they are, being able to just brush that off or just, being able to really read your own body and just make decisions based off what you feel you need. It's invaluable stuff, man. It's invaluable. I was bad at it as an athlete personally. The small stints I would do as a pro, semi-pro, I would go over to Arkansas with McDonald's group, and I would almost always come back hurt. I would go up there for Christmas break for 3 weeks, and almost every time I'd come back hurt because they were on another level, and I just couldn't not bite off more than I could chew every single time. Right. And learning to manage that's tough, dude.
Yeah,
truly is.
What is that? The once a runner thing. You can run day one with them, right? If they're better than you, and maybe day two, hang on, but by day three, you're going to be hurting. If you keep trying to do it, you're not going to be there.
And that could be a super valuable lesson for a lot of these kids. Listen, we've got a bunch that have signed and are going to college and everything. As an incoming freshman, that might be your biggest battle, is fighting that fight, understanding when you don't need to hammer a distance run with the seniors, when you don't need to run faster than, what the workout was planned, when to push, when to rest. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of refreshing, when you sit here and you think about some of these little skill sets that you're learning, even at the high school level, that people at the, the highest level of sport are still learning to balance. And I think you always do. And then, of course, even if you do have it figured out, at some point you're going to start to age, and then things change, and then you have to relearn your body all over again. So welcome back to the grind. I know I can't do what I used to. That's for sure. My brain still thinks it can.
I remember trying to rip a couple 200s with you after practices. Legs weren't turning.
Some light speed, man. The 9 p.m. light speed after recruiting.
Yeah.
I'll never forget those. Me, you, and Chinchu. And Paulie used to jump in with us too, right?
I think he might have torn his hamstring. I don't know.
What else, man? What's the pressure like working with one of the Olympic hopefuls?
Yeah.
Any different? You still sleeping good?
Yeah, I'm sleeping fine. Maybe I should be feeling more pressure. I don't know. When I came out here to Portland State, I think I told you, Coach Brand was telling me it's a bad idea. And so, but I wanted to be home and I wanted to have my own group again. So I called Colleen. She was one of the first people I called to ask about it. And she was like, heck yeah, get over here. I'm over here. I'll be your volunteer. Let's do this thing. So I don't know. Our relationship shifted from obviously college coach and college athlete to a friendship over the years. And now, I mean, I really feel like, yeah, I'm a coach, but I'm really more of a sort of a sounding board and someone that can speak honestly with her. And so we're just figuring this thing out together. And she's a stud. She's a pro at this point. She knows what she's doing. So,
yeah. I mean, but I feel like that's a natural a natural part of the coach athlete relationship once you get to a certain development point, you know, a certain age. And I can honestly say, like, when I start working with an athlete, I'm not trying to be their friend.
Mm-hmm.
It's coach athlete, and you get to know one another. And then, you know, maybe 3-5 years later, like you said, you get to know the person so well. It's like, it becomes, you know, almost a friendship. Like, you're still their coach, but you get to know them so well. It's hard. Mm-hmm. There's such mutual respect, and you're both after the same thing. That's awesome, man.
Yeah. I mean, I think the thing is that we both want her, we have the same goals for her, right? So we're aligned in that it's not for me, it's for her career, and we're going to figure this thing out. Yeah.
That's kind of most of what I wanted to go through with you, but is there any departing wisdom you'd like to lay on some of these kids listening, that maybe you feel like, I don't know. I was reading the book, A Tribe of Mentors, and one of the questions they ask some of these uber successful people is, if you had a billboard the entire world could see, right? Or in this case, the entire high school running community, what would it say?
Yeah, I might contradict myself a little in this, so I'll try and be clear. But I think there's a lot of value in, like we said earlier, being present, focusing on the little things that matter every single day. But also every once in a while zooming out and just sort of, as the head coach here likes to say on the track side, see the forest through the trees, right? Like, or think about where you want to be in 5 years or 10 years, right? And just see the big picture every once in a while, or look backwards at the progress you've made. And you don't celebrate it, but you sort of use it, benchmark your progress, pat yourself on the back, and get back to work, right? And I think it's really hard for runners, especially in high school and college, where you have social media everywhere. You see all these people running really fast times. You have a ton of different workouts going on. Well, when we were at Florida State, it was like the workout Wednesday on Flow Track, but there's a ton of different places posting stuff now, which it's good, but you got to focus on what you need to do and see what your plan is, and not, again, constantly play that comparison game.
Yeah.
So yeah, just take a breath, be present when you need to be present, and just do the work. It's
maintain
fun.
Perspective, work hard. That's what I took from that.
Yeah. It's an awesome sport that can be with you for life. The crummiest thing is that the runner that ends their college career and throws their spikes away and never wants to see them again, right? It's okay if you don't, but if you hate the sport, that sucks. And it takes so much time to build your work capacity and fall in love with the Sunday long run or Saturday, whenever you do it, and just put the work in. So.
Yeah. Nice, man. Well, I really appreciate you coming on and joining us. It's been awesome, dude.